states are actually taking technically, well, subnational governments should take 100% of VAT. But I know the federal government retains 15% for other reasons and other things like that. And then you have issues around CIT, company income tax. And people even complain that the CIT rate is too high, it's too low. What do we do? I mean, we saw Ghana actually say, no, we are going into productivity. We want to increase production. We are not looking at taxation for now. And a whole lot of arguments. And they always say that if you put, of course, if you put two economists in a room, of course, they will most likely come up with three concepts, and they will still disagree with the concept. What do you say about this? How do we move from here?
Yeah, thank you. I definitely agree that fundamentally, I feel bottle federalism isn't a good idea. But I'm also from the school of thought that Nigeria's problems are not difficult. Our solutions tend to be difficult. I'm going to highlight a couple of low-hanging fruits, right, when it comes to open data and addressing that. The first is looking at the states. Only about half of the states in this country have their own statistics bureau. So the NBS deals with federal statistics and has states data, but only about half of the states actually have their own statistics bureau. This essentially means that half of our states don't know anything about the people living there. The reality is that it doesn't matter who the governor is, who the cabinet is, it doesn't matter who's there, you are blind. I think someone spoke about walking in the dark, right? So that is a very simple thing to solve. Statistics bureaus are not that expensive to run. Researchers don't command such high salaries, as you probably know. But this has been the case for years, and I bet will be the case for many more years. The NBS has made fantastic strides because of the person in charge. There is a serious possibility that when Dr. Kale leaves, we are going to regress because the systems are not in place. Now, again, we're going to be walking blind nationally. So that's the first one, right? Establish state statistics bureaus and fund them. Because then states can collect data, publish data, and development agencies can look at the data and decide we want to support schools in Kano versus Jigawa because now we know the school rates and so on. Right? At the moment, even people that want to help are coming in blind. The second thing is our favorite, the oil sector. I think that sector makes a mockery of open data in general, right? The NMPC, and apologies for anyone here who may work or know anyone that works there, I have no problem with you, but I do have a problem with the institution. Publishing a December 2017 monthly report in February 2019 is not transparency. Publishing the reports in non-machine readable format is not transparency, right? So you're just playing around. Now, obviously, that sector is highly politicized, and I wonder if that's even more difficult to change than our federalism structure. But again, and we were discussing this earlier, but if you begin to tackle that sector and properly drive open data there, that sector is so key to the economy that you unlock other things, right? I think the last time the NBS said that about 50% of the economy is indirectly linked to the oil sector. So once you shine a light in that sector, few people can hide. The third thing is, again, look at major institutions in the country. One of my recent favorites is INEC because we just had elections. It's quite incredible that data on election results, which arguably should be the most public data there is so difficult to get. If I want to find out the number of votes a House of Reps candidates in a local government in Katsina won, I would not be able to find that out. They have the data, but they will refuse to give it to you. And I'm speaking from experience here, guys, because when we built our site to visualize results and we approached them for 2015 data, we got a lot of pushback. And I know budget was also involved in that process, right? So when you have INEC, that should be the paragon of data transparency acting that way. You have NMPC, you have the states governments that lack data bureaus, we are wasting our time. Go for the low-hanging fruits. We don't have to start dealing with small businesses or LGAs. Go for the low-hanging fruits, the big boys up there. Let them sort themselves out, and that's how the culture can change.
50% of our states they are planning and working in the dark. And that's what happens because whatever the person does, 2, 3 years later, it's all a mess. I have engaged a politician before who said that he was running to be governor and he needed my assistance. And as I asked him, so where can I see your manifesto? He said, can you help me work on one? And that's a true story. I mean, thankfully, the person never became governor, but that's a true story. And I don't think that's an abnormal story. We know a lot of governors that work from Abuja because there is no incentive for him. I almost said her, unfortunately, no her yet. There's no incentive for him to even stay in the state because the closest point of getting money is Abuja. So in the commonsensical way of thinking, it's actually good for him to be in Abuja so that he doesn't have to travel every month. He collects the money, he wires it back to the state. He wants to dash the state. It's funny, but so we need to understand that that's the point. We're playing from the point of darkness. The first battle is the battle for data itself, quality data. There's a training video on the internet right now. An active, alive, and kicking Nigerian minister of labor said that Nigeria has a surplus of doctors. And when he was challenged, he did what the average person does. He spoke to his personal experience of knowing a doctor that has established centers at home. But Nigeria is short by about 250,000 doctors. That's massive. But the disaster wasn't even that the person was saying that we have more than enough doctors, so it's natural for us to export. That's not as bad as the fact that from the video you could see that this guy wasn't trying to be a bad person. He actually has no clue. And that's if he was lying, I would have been more grateful. That, oh, this guy is lying. This guy actually has no clue that the country where he is a cabinet member as the Minister of Labor is shot by some 250,000 doctors.
And we see that play out, and I think I was in a forum somewhere in Ogun State where they were talking about open data in southwestern Nigeria. And people were actually even interrogating the numbers. The total number of people in this school is actually false. That some of these things are actually manufactured data. In fact, people will even put question mark among other things. How do you think enterprise will begin to actually appreciate data, one? And how do you think we can actually begin to build that? Because where we are going, we want a society, irrespective of the challenges we are facing, we want a society where our children could actually feel live in a more inclusive society that is actually development driven. And of course, having that data culture. So I'm asking a question. Where do we get to that point where government data is being respected by the enterprise, and the enterprise make informed decisions based on those data and they get results? And what are the things you think we need to actually put in place together so that we begin to actually take this home?
We do have a government funding partner who, for the entrepreneurs to be able to access the loans or the funds, they need to have their businesses registered. And the government says that your business should be registered within 24 to 48 hours, I think, right? Yeah. But that we've never seen that happen. We've never ever seen that happen. That is it's a serious problem. So now you say that there's available funding for entrepreneurs. All you need to do is get trained and then ensure that your business is registered so that we are paying these monies into registered accounts, business accounts. But the entrepreneurs, the shortest time it took any of them to register their business was about a month. And it wasn't because they didn't have the requirements, it wasn't because they didn't meet the requirements, they didn't have the documentation and all of that. They did. But the process it's just like you were saying, the process it's chaotic. It's chaotic, and a lot of them pulled out after, they just said, you know what, I already have the knowledge on how to run a business and run it successfully in Nigeria. I think that's fine for me. When I'm able to register my business, properly with the CAC, then that will be fine for me. So one of the things we decided to do is say, how can we engage the government better and make them more accountable? To say, if you have set up a program for entrepreneurs um, to be able to access funding and you want to train them first, how can we ensure that they have clearer KPIs in terms of targets? What are you measuring after now? You're saying that they won't be able to access the funds until their businesses are registered. How are you ensuring that that happens? How are you ensuring that they can get their businesses registered within the 48 hours that you have said? So on our own end, we're also engaging the government to say, going forward, when you set up a program for entrepreneurs, for example, how can you influence the regulators to ensure that these things are done and are done quickly? We realized 3 or 4 years ago, we set up a unit within Faith Foundation, the Research and Policy Unit. And what we wanted to do with that unit was to get information on research on supporting startups, and then use that information to influence or improve our curriculum design for these entrepreneurs. And then once we did that, we started to engage other stakeholders in terms of the report that we had gotten from that. And we realized that a lot of entrepreneurs were now, or businesses were now having issues with regulators, FIRS, NAFDAC, CAC, and they can't get these things. So their businesses cannot move forward with this. We have a lot of businesses that require NAFDAC registration numbers. Sometime, I think in 2015, we had a policy dialogue when we brought in all the stakeholders within the SME space, the marketplace entrepreneurs themselves, and the policymakers and the regulators. And we allowed them to go first to talk. And at that time, there was some funding that was available, I think, from the central bank, I think. And we allowed them to go first. And then the disbursing arms were also on the panel, talking about how easy it is to access this funding. All you need to do is fill this form and fill that form, and voila, you have the funding.
What candid advice can you actually give to us, especially for people seated here, on how to actually move this project forward? Because as everybody have rightly put up today, that before we start seeing development, we need to begin to make right decisions. And those right decisions can only be made when we have right data. But there's a challenge. How do we get those right data?
Thank you very much. A couple of questions in this one question. But I'll start off from the point where what you said about data sitting in different cycles. What we're trying to do in government right now is to bring all of those under one roof. MDS is doing a lot of work, but for instance, we understand what the problem is with revenues, for example. I'll use that as an example. Michael did mention that oil sector, for example, is a low-hanging fruit. Why is that? The Nigerian economy, if you looked at the numbers from MDS, you realize that the oil sector is just about 10%, less than 10% of our GDP. That tells you that the economy in itself is diversified. But in reality, oil revenues contribute to more than 60% of government revenues, okay? And close to, or if not over 80% of our forex earnings. So it puts us in a very tight space where if anything goes wrong in that sector, everyone gets scolded. So we've come to the point where the first step is what can we do to make things better? And the current Minister of Finance is driving what we call the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative, which is looking at non-oil revenues. How do we leverage on the numbers we have? How do we leverage the numbers to see what can be done? What efficiency can we put in place to boost custom collections, to boost FIRS collections, to do all of these things? Now, the baseline data we have are conflicting, like you said. If you go to CBN publication, you can find a number that's different from what you find in our space. and you find something different from what you find in OEGF space. OEGF, by the way, is Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. So the administration thought it was nice to come together and have like one standpoint of truth, which is like a reconciled data point, and set up this Presidential Revenue Reconciliation and Monitoring Committee. Now, that committee is looking at revenue collections from all the revenue actors in the space. And the number of OEGF, the number in Budget Office, and the number in CBN, and the number quoted by FIRS need to speak to each other. Now, we're going back in time at least to the point of 1999. All of these numbers have been reconciled to a point where we are comfortable with, and everyone agrees with the numbers. The reality is we're cleaning it up, okay? And we're getting to a point where the data you will find in government cycle will just be one source of truth. Whether you go to Ministry of Finance, or you come to Budget Office, or you go to CBN or OEGF, the information you will get moving forward, and that work is still ongoing, by the way, will be one source of truth. And for me, that's a starting point, because a lot of people, you can do your research based on information available to you, say from CBN, and it doesn't cover the whole picture because they are missing some information or another, additional information from the treasurer, which is the OAGF, for example. So in itself, that's pretty much, the issues that we're dealing with. There's a lot of things in government that I'm not very proud of, information sitting on someone's desktop, but that's in the next few months will be a thing of the past.
A digital skills training for 200 people. I mean, the reality is that there are some local governments where you don't get broadband, right? I have had to change my mobile phone. I'm going to do it today now from 9Mobile, apologies if you are a 9Mobile staff, to MTN, because 9Mobile has so many blind spots, even in Ado-Ekiti, the federal capital. So how do you do digital skills training in a place where there's no broadband connectivity? So some of the work we're trying to do today is to say, let's even start by taking connectivity to 4 or 5 local governments. So to Oye, for example, where there's a federal university, to Ikole, where there's some tertiary education presence, start there, build the business case with that, and then encourage the providers to say, okay, let's start going to other outposts. Ekiti State as a whole gets 28 megawatts of electricity, right? 28 megawatts. I'm not sure it can power, yes, that cannot power 2 floors of this hotel, right? So those are the challenges that we're dealing with today. We have 1 tractor to clear land across the state, 1. You said, but that's the starting point. It's good to recognize the starting point. So your point is absolutely valid. Now, what will be a disaster, and I certainly will not be in my job, if in a year from now, a youth corps member comes back and says exactly what you said. I can guarantee that that's going to change. Absolutely. One of the first things we're doing is we're taking a microcredit and enterprise development program across the states. What we've charged the person in charge of that to do is to even ensure that he has presence in each of the local governments, right? Even if it's 2 people, just have presence in each of the local governments. Look, I mean, I say this with all sense of, this is not a joke. When we ran the Employment Trust Fund in Lagos, there's no local government in Lagos State that will say we didn't benefit from the fund. We had liaison offices in every local government. That's where representation starts from, right? So that one we're going to do. It's a very easy question to answer. In a year from now, our goal is to say, cashew in Ikole, in Oye, you can do cashew because it's up north, it's close to Kwara. In the south, we'll have other produce that we can focus on there. So development is going to spread across Ekiti. Of that, I have no doubt, right? It's going to take some time, but it's going to happen. Now, the other point around NIMSI very quickly is that, look, what you don't spend money on doesn't grow, right? It's a very simple question in my perspective. The question is, for you as a citizen who's interested in NIMSI, is to tie NIMSI's budget, right, to performance, right? The reality is that if you do not resource that institution properly, how do they go and capture data of, we don't even know how many we are, over 100 million people, right? It's going to be a very difficult exercise. So for me, the real challenge is, yes, everybody says, NIMSI should be driving, identity management, but are they sufficiently resourced to deliver on that mandate? For me, I don't think the answer is yes.